Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're talking about the power of coaching. We're honored to be joined by Jeff McGinnis. He's the executive director of the Nashville Coaching Coalition. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jeremy?
Doing well. I love the conversation around coaching and youth sports and coaching the coaches to be more impactful. So we're going to have a lot of fun for sure in terms of what you do. And let's start though with a little bit of your personal background and story, because I think when you talk about the power of coaching, you've had some great coaching yourself. Give us a little bit of how you got into this world.
Yeah. I think we all have a story when we all grew up playing some kind of athletics or had some kind of educator, if it was a band director, an English teacher, or a coach, that spoke into us. And I grew up in a family with an older brother and a mom and dad. My mom was a PE teacher. My dad was an athletic director. And so, I wanted to play drums at one point and took a couple lessons, and then it was like, no, I'm better at shooting a ball or throwing something, So I grew up in athletics, ended up playing in high school, and then lucky enough to play in college as well. Had my wide range of coaches, from those that impacted me in a very negative way through shame and manipulation, and then had great coaches that encouraged me to do things I didn't even know I could do. So that being part of my childhood and then into adulthood, I've been in the corporate world, kind of burned out of all of that and needed something more for my life. I didn't know quite what more was, but I knew I wanted to impact kids in my community. And my story of athletics just kind of continued into this open door through a nonprofit work that I had done for about 7 years, and then being invited to come and run the Nashville Coaching Coalition.
When you talk about the power of coaches, amazing influence over youth. At the same time, though, in many cases, you don't get a lot of training. And so you're just kind of thrown in. And to your point, if you're not equipped, you could go the shame manipulation route versus the inspire route. And so I love what you do and how you do it. And I think it's monumentally important when you talk about encouraging our youth, the fundamentals, all those things that go into sports. And it covers obviously a wide range of sports, but go ahead and start painting the picture about what you do as an organization and why it's so important.
Yeah. So our mission is to develop full-hearted coaches that are developing young people for life. What does full-hearted mean and what does development mean and all of that, I think, is a little bit different for everybody. And so what that looks like is we firmly believe that coaches are heroes. They are going to be the greatest mentors in our society, hidden as coaches. They have the opportunity to speak into kids. I used to work at a children's facility to where you see statistics now of kids. A third of the kids in Tennessee are growing up in a single parent home. And so we believe that every kid is one carrying adults away from being a success story. That's a Josh Shipp kind of thing, a great youth speaker, and totally agree with that for where it is. And in this day and age, that will probably be a teacher or coach in most kids' lives. And so these coaches have a great responsibility, but if they don't know where they come from or why they do what they do, they're only going to repeat what happened to them. And you kind of look back in history of these coaches that came back from war, and it was do or die, right? If you don't do this, you're going to die. Somebody's going to shoot you. Well, a lot of those coaches got into athletics because they knew how to train and discipline and do all these kind of things, but it's not do or die, but it was shame, manipulation, fear, and it worked for a little while. And now we have this new age of kid and society and social media and all these choices. And it's like, hey, I know athletics isn't about do or die. It's just a fun game. There's discipline to it. There's life lessons we can teach, but I don't respond to the fear anymore. I don't respond to the shame because I have another choice to go and do something different. And so what we try to do is lead a coach into their own story. Why do you coach the way you coach? What's it like to be coached by you? How are you going to define success? Even if you win a national championship or a state championship this year, tomorrow you're starting over. And so you have to do it all again. So we have to learn to define success in a different way. And the hard part is our success with the coaches we have may come 20 years down the road when these young boys and girls are now becoming dads and moms and employees in society. And so we have to define success, but we may have to wait an extended period of time to see what success looks like. So then we kind of break it down into what does it look like on a daily basis? Kids are facing unbelievable challenges nowadays, so everybody in society, but especially kids as they're growing up. So can you welcome a kid to practice? What does it look like to understand if they're having a bad day? And yes, I can probably shame and manipulate them to have a better day, but ultimately long term, they're going to be hurt. They're going to be sad. They're not going to come back with a great understanding. And so if I understand my own story and understand my sadness and hurts, then as a coach, I'm a lot more empathetic towards that kid that walks in and just had a bad day. And it's not about, we've got to have a great practice, but I can speak into your life and help you work through it.
There's so many layers to what you're talking about. I think there's the, does a coach know the fundamentals of the sport? Can they teach that? But then like you're talking about, it's all the wraparound holistic support that goes with it, being a mentor, a father figure, a mother figure, whatever that is, so that they, understand the attitudes, the behavior, who they are, how that manifests, the dynamics, the changing dynamics, like you say, especially with social media. And where this plays in is not just, like you said, the success of the current, the immediacy, the wins and losses. It's the long-term patient success of molding these young athletes, these student athletes, into successful men and women that become productive citizens and parents and voters and everything that we're talking about, entrepreneurs and so much more. And it also ties into the success of the coach, the students, but also the program and the schools, because in an era, like you say, where things are changing, where students can choose to go to different places, so much of that relies on the coach needs to be embracing and inspiring and encouraging and including everyone so that they feel like they're a part of it and want to stay. And so I think there's a lot of layers to everything you're unpacking in terms of why this is so important. Talk about the programs and ultimately how you're able to do what you do, because you have a number of programs. So go ahead and dive into the programs.
Thank you. We have a one-day program that is called the Coach Forum, where we hire, speakers to just come in and encourage coaches for what they're doing. Maybe give them some practical things that they can do. We usually hold that in the summer, so most of our middle and high school coaches can come. I mentioned Josh Shipp, Inky Johnson, John Gordon. Some of these guys have all been a part of the Coach Forum, and it's just a big pep rally. It's just, we kind of get together, give you some practical advice, and then we invite you into deeper walks for what we do. We have what we call the Academy, which is a 7-week program that is really taking a coach to dive into their own story. We teach feelings, we teach boundaries, we teach needs, and basically come up with answering the 4 big questions that we have that I kind of mentioned earlier. Why do I coach? Why do I coach the way I do? What's it like to be coached by me? And how do I define success? And from that, you kind of get a coaching philosophy that hopefully we will help provide you with a coaching philosophy of why you do what you do. And that's going to impact everything that you do from there on out. We also have professional development days. Thankfully, in Nashville, we have a lot of private schools that can do what they want to do. And so they can invite us in for a professional development day or a coach's coffee where we just go and say thank you. We provide bagels and donuts and just shake hands and just say thanks for what you do. We love you. We support you. We're here for you. And it's just a great time to do that. Professional development days are just those days that teachers are there for in-services that we can kind of come in and teach and just help start the process for what they do. And then we have also what we call huddle groups, which are just really, for lack of a better term, group therapy for somebody that really wants to go deeper. It's therapist led. It's a paid therapist that's coming in, and we just talk about story and process the day and process how to interact with parents, how to interact with my players, how to interact with my coaches. And the program as a whole the football coach gets this and I'm a women's soccer and I don't get the same thing. How do I process that and what do I do? And so there's a lot of things that a lot of layers to all of this, but ultimately we're trying to get back to the heart of the issue. And then a big thing we just started last year was we are training every Metro Nashville public school coach. Last year we did 250 middle school coaches. This year we're in the process of doing about 400 high school coaches. And these are the true heroes that we see in our society. We go in and do a 3-part series that we feed them dinner. We do about an hour talk, and then we again let them break up into small groups, into a therapist led, and just let them talk. And it's pretty incredible that everybody realizes we're on the same path, right? Even if it's this school over here that maybe is in a different part of the city that's not as nice as this part of the city, they're still facing the same challenges. They're still facing kids that, are coming to practice sometimes or not, or a parent issue or a financial issue or whatever it may be. And so if we can dive back into the heart and help them remember why they are coaching, that every kid desires to belong and matter, then how do we help that coach have every kid belong and matter at their practice?
By bringing the coaches together, you're also building the bonds and the relationships between them. And in many cases, they're competitors, obviously, on the playing field or on the court. But by bringing them together with a higher purpose, I think it also puts those games, those competitions in perspective about really what it's about. And I think that's a piece of this too, is building the relationships between the other coaches as well, and realizing there is a higher purpose, just like you're talking about. Give us maybe some of the feedback that you're already receiving from the coaches.
Yeah, a lot of it is they just didn't know what they needed in a lot of ways. It's survival of the fittest, and it's just about wins and losses a lot of times, even if they know there's something different. And so a lot of coaches just say thank you. They just love to be cared for and supported. They are really grateful in not becoming experts, but being able to understand maybe what a kid is going through and how they can offer help. The things that they are facing today is really unbelievable. Last Metro session we have, there was a school that was saying they haven't had a pep rally in 3 years. One, because of COVID and the crowd, but two, because it created an environment that people wanted to fight. And so something broke out every time. And so as they realize what pep rallies are for and they can bring a different dimension to it, they can start having pep rallies again. And so it's just leading in a way, it's giving them words maybe to what they're feeling. It's allowing them to see a different perspective of, well, my coach never did that for me. True, but it doesn't mean you have to stay that way. And so there's just a ton of feedback on what kids are facing, what they can do with it, and how to handle it the best they can, because they do understand they're influencers, but they don't really know what to do with that power and that authority sometimes.
How can the community help your efforts?
Yeah, we are a nonprofit, and so obviously financial all the time. We are asking a lot of coaches that have limited time and limited resources to give of their time and resources to come and join us. And so if we could scholarship any coach at any time and finances not have to matter, that would be huge. Word of mouth. If you know a coach, if you're a parent out there that has a coach that you think probably could use this service, introduce them to us. We would love to chat. If you're a teacher or an administrator yourself, invite us to your school, or let's just have a conversation. Ultimately, NCC wants to come alongside and assist programs and organizations and not take over things. And so could we return a better employee to you when they come through our program? That's our hope and desire. And so it's not, we're trying to build this one school up. We don't have a school. We don't have an organization. We don't have a youth program to where we're trying to get the best kids. We are actually coming along just to help the coaches. And so, the more open doors that are available to us, the better off we can do.
Absolutely. Wrap up with where we can go to learn more and reach out. So website, social media, where do we go?
Yeah, NashvilleCoachingCoalition.com. It's really long name and it's all spelled out. We're trying to work on shortening that, but NashvilleCoachingCoalition.com, and then Nashville Coaching Co. is any of our social media stuff. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hopefully we'll build much more of that. But on our website, you can also sign up for our email newsletter that goes out about once a month, for sure once a quarter. Again, we're trying to build this kind of social media aspect. We're a staff of 3 and we're trying to do big things. And so we're putting things out in front of us, and social media is 2023 for sure. So.
Well, I can definitely appreciate that and respect that, but I love everything you're doing. So, Jeff, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. And if we can ever do anything for anybody, just let us know.